All right, thank you. So hopefully everyone is familiar with narratives. If you've used Kbase, you certainly know what a narrative is, and you know that this is where we really want to start importing our data to do any analysis on it. So what I'm going to show really quickly before I jump into the demo of bulk import is some of the old ways that we would import data. So just in the past, we've changed the importer several times over the years, try to accommodate larger files, accommodate more files, but it's still been kind of difficult to get it all in the narrative without having to click a lot of boxes and just kind of do a lot of ticking of boxes and having to run lots of individual cells. So we've in the past we've sort of split the importer up into several different importers for different data types, so GenBank files or different SRA files. You could import directly from web resources like FTP or Google Drive, etc. And we've of course got some ways you can add public data very quickly into your narrative using the public tab of the data slide out, as this little GIF is kind of showing here, the traditional way to do that. So there's a lot of ways to get your data into Kbase. You may have also noticed in the past we have this upload category in the apps section where there are some different specific importers for different kinds of files or different kinds of resources. So in short, we've had as we've added new data types, as we've added new file types that are compatible with our data types, we tend to create generate lots of new import apps associated with each type of data. So what we wanted to do was create something that was both would allow one to import multiple types of data simultaneously, but also administer to lots of files, sort of do some of the pre-flight checks that you would do before importing your data in a single interface. So this is where we kind of came up with the idea of the bulk importer. I should say that this is all also part of a effort to enable greater mass or bulk functionality inside of the system, where you have lots and lots of genomes or lots and lots of sets of reads, and you're just trying to do the same process over and over again on a lot of different pieces of data. So we started with the import aspect of that. We're working now on some of the bulk analytics, and of course being able to do bulk download as well is a priority as well. So what this will enable you to do, though, is to import a lot of data into your narrative at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is, maybe you all can't see, but I'm just doing something very straightforward here, which is I've got two file folders full of genomes and assemblies that I'm just going to import about 8 or 9 different files here. So I just drag them and drop them into this import window, and you can see that in just about a minute here they'll all finish importing. So I've got some assemblies, I've got some genomes, I've got a set of reads already in here from a previous exercise, but this is just a couple of files. The bulk importer, as I understand it, is capable of dealing with several dozen, if not hundreds, of files, depending on how many you want to kind of capture into one bulk import cell. So you can see this is these uploads, I should say, are completing. And once they're all done here, all right, I can click refresh. And this will at least make sure that all of my files are in my staging area, right? So you upload your files into your staging area, and then you import your files from your staging area into your narrative. That's the sort of two-step that you do when you're pulling in data into your narratives. But so I just want to pull all of these things that I have in my staging area right now. You can see with the genomes, it just automatically selected what type that corresponded to the file type. So what data type corresponded to the original file type. Some of these did not automatically select. I know that these are assemblies, so I can select assembly here, manually select that. For this, I know that these are interleaved FASTQ reads. If you're dealing with reads, please be very careful if you're importing separate directions of the paired in files, or you're importing a single paired in file, because yeah, sometimes some of the downstream apps will not work if you don't select the correct kind of file, if it's interleaved or not. So there's other types you can see as well. If you have SRA files, if you have GFF plus FASTA genome files, you can import these using the bulk importer. Some of these other types do not currently work with the bulk importer, but right now, reads, assemblies, genomes, metagenomes generally work with this bulk importer. So now I'm just selecting all of the radio boxes here for each of the files, and I now see I've got this import selected button here at the bottom right. So I'm going to click it, and voila, there you see the new bulk importer app. Import from staging area is its proper name, but we kind of colloquially call it import or bulk importer. So what you see here is a couple things. One is that it organized my different files into different data types in the left-hand side of the importer. So I've got my assemblies, I've got my FASTQ reads, I've got my GenBank genomes, and I can just click through each of these, and it'll resize the window accordingly, but also just show me all of my files in there. And so this is just nice because I can do those pre-flight checks that I was saying, where I can provide names if I want to do any additional naming. I can set parameter types that are going to be assigned across all of the files. So this is kind of an important thing. If you say you want to do some config filtering at the import stage, you just have to understand that this parameter is going to apply across all of these apps. If you forget to select something in your staging area, you can of course add a row and select something. I selected everything, so it's giving me this error, and I can also delete it if I want to delete something from these options. So but you can just see I can set some of the metadata characteristics of these different files I'm importing, and basically just get it all ready to pull in here. With the FASTQ reads, you can see I can select the sequencing technology. Again, this is somewhere where you're going to want to be careful, because if you have a lot of different sequencing technologies or a lot of different files, it's best to just separate them and try to import them separately from one another, because all of these parameters are going to apply. So similarly, this single genome parameter here, if you've got metagenomes, you may not want to mix them in with your draft isolates or completed isolates that you're importing. If you have the metadata about individual reads like standard deviation or mean insert size, you don't have to apply these at the import stage. You can assign those values later. So again, this is where you may want to be careful with just what you pull in bulk, because just the way this works right now is that again, these parameters are going to apply across everything. So some assemblers rely on the user input values of insert and standard deviation. So it's just something you want to be careful with. It's best to leave it blank if it doesn't require it and you don't know what to add there. So and again, finally, with genomes, you can see similar options. I'd recommend not, if you're doing bulk import of genomes, recommend avoiding using the scientific name and just assigning that later on for your individual files. You can do that using the annotation apps. So this is all just say there's a couple limitations here that where we're sort of hybridizing some of the features of the old importer with the that are built around individual files with some of the new features. And I think what Zach is going to show is some of the ways you can use CSV files to stipulate some of these parameters so that you don't run into problems with this. But this is just the way it kind of works right now. So just making sure that folks are aware of this before they try to add everything all at once, and then something happens where the parameters were misassigned. So anyway, that's very straightforward and easy to really do all this. It's really just a matter of selecting all of the files you want in the importer staging area and setting the parameters. And then as you see, it's ready to run. So I click run, and what this will do is start to spin up the job, or I should say all of the jobs associated with each of these files. So as it launches, it will show you some of the job management features here. You can see that each one of these is getting its own job ID. And they're all in queue right now. So as they move into the running phase, we'll start to see some of the different options. But one of the things you can see here is this cancel retry all button. So you may run into issues where you need to cancel a job. Maybe you added something in there you shouldn't have, or you want to just check on something before it spins up all of its own jobs for it. You can do cancel or retry all, and you can just see you get some options here for canceling only the queued jobs. You can cancel the ones that are running, retry all the canceled jobs. So that makes it easier if you're dealing with several dozen pieces of data that you're importing, and you obviously don't want to stop it all and while it's in progress, or get issues where things are half loaded. So yeah, that you have some options for dealing with the individual jobs that come in there. I'm gonna save this and maybe reopen it here because it's giving me a little bit of it looks like I'm getting a little bit of kernel trouble, which this happens sometimes. So what I'm going to do is wait for that to save there, and then I'm going to refresh it. I can check those. I'll show you this really quickly. I can go to my narratives here, and oh, maybe I can't. We will see. Did something happen on KBase site? Well, that happens sometimes. Well, sorry for the little technical glitch here, but that happens sometimes with the computers and internet and all of that kind of stuff. So maybe I'll kill time here while just showing some of the other importing options. So as I mentioned earlier, there's some other ways you can import data into KBase using some of these upload apps. One of them that's especially if you're just importing SRA files, you can. This is actually the old SRA browser, so this may not be super helpful, but just when you're importing SRA files, one thing to be sure of is to find the right FTP link to drop into the direct importer, because you can download files onto your computer from SRA, but you can't necessarily, or sorry, I should say you can download them from SRA, but it's sometimes easier to just directly, horizontally transfer them from one of their FTP sites. So that's definitely an option. But you just have to be sure you find the right link, because sometimes it can be a little confusing. So usually in our SRA, you want to make sure you go to the run browser to do that, and then find the FTP link that is associated with the specific run. You can do, in this instance, you can see too that this is a paired and read file, and it's also hosted at the European Bioinformatics Institute. So you've got each run of the file. So if you wanted to, grab each run of the Illumina sequencing, you could do that. And just as well, you can get some of the metadata, like reads, like mean or standard deviation of the read insert link. So all right, I'm gonna see if this is working again. Zach, is your KBase working? I assume you're probably testing it right now.
It was when I checked earlier in CI.
Okay.
Let me
Well, I'm
go.
gonna pause my screen share, and I'm gonna hand it over to you if you're ready, just to see if I can address kind of what's happening on my side. Is that okay?
It seems to be loading. It seems to be loading on my end, Ben.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna hand it to you, Zach.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to preview a feature that's still under development. There's a little bit more work to do with the front end and some error handling, but as you may have noticed with Ben's upload, if you have a data type that can be used for multiple imports, such as assembly, which can be used for these 3 different import types, it could still be a bit tedious to select each file and then make sure the box is checked. So we're developing this CSV import specification method. And if you go to the docs site, docs.kbase.us, we have it in our data upload and download guide. And so from here, we're hosting the templates, which you can download as a zip file. And I've already got one open. And so for example, for assembly, you'll see that there are three rows of information. This first, all 3 of these are required. So when you download them, don't delete them. So this first line is to let the parser know what type of import to expect. And the second one is the code for the parameters. And then the third one is the display text. So you can fill it out based on that if you know the values. So you may know your file name and the output object name you want. For the other parameters, you'll want to enter the text as it's displayed in the apps cell. So for instance, you can create a dummy cell, and so for this import, we'll assume that the values I want are draft isolate and 500. So I'll enter draft isolate, capital D, capital I, and space. And so you can do that manually in the Excel file, or it will probably be easier since you have your data all in a location. You can use a simple script to write it. So in this case, I'm just using the Python script to write it based on the file that I downloaded. And I have it in the wrong location. So let me open the file I loaded previously. Oh no. So this file that I created the other day, it has all the values set. And so when you get this file produced, you can upload it to your staging area, and then make sure that everything you want to import is unchecked. And you'll select the type import specification. And so this will read the file and will generate the bulk import cell. And so it took a second, but it read it, and then it imported this, and then it set up the cell with all of the files that I selected and all the parameters. And so from this point on, it is the same as the regular bulk upload. Once you run it, it will have the same job status tab and results tab when it's complete. And Ben, has yours, have any of your jobs completed?
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. This looks like a few of them, most of them are still queued, but at least one has completed. But yeah, I'm still having a little bit of issues on my side. So
I can show mine because mine are starting to run. So in the job status tab, it's sortable now. So you can sort by status. And so I can set all the queued to the top or running. This will sort alphabetically. So there will be I don't remember if it's called completed or done, but you can click on the individual line for each file to see the jobs for that one. And then the logs are collapsed because as you may have seen from previous jobs, the logs can get pretty long. And so this is the exact same as what you would have previously seen before. It's just packaged into a bulk format. And should have some jobs finishing soon. I think these are all pretty small. And while I'm waiting on that, I will mention that we have updated the documentation. So the import guide now has a section for importing data in bulk. So most of what we've covered here is available on the doc site. And then we have a link within that for the limitations, because what we have now is the first version. We're still working on some quality of life improvements and fixing bugs. And so the issues that we know of are available here. And if you encounter any issues that you don't find here, be sure to let us know through the help desk, so we can document all the issues that we haven't found yet. And so now I have some objects. It's still, the job is not quite done. If you see the object before you see the job is done, it usually means that it's just finishing up the report. So these should be finished any second now.
Hey,
Okay.
Zach, how do you watch the job logs for any of the jobs going on?
So if you click on the line and then click logs, it'll show those, and it should update. This one in particular is done. And so now, so it says success. And so you can either go to the results tab directly, or you can click on the link next to it and it'll switch to the results tab. And so we'll see the results for each object, each job that is completed. So right now, only 3 of them, the job is fully completed with the report. So it'll show those 3, it'll tell you the objects you've created first. If you do a multiple type import, you'll have sections for each type. And then you can see the reports. And these reports are, again, the same as the uploads you've used in the past, just packaged into this bulk cell. So you can see the report here with the job information and the stats, and then you can view these in a separate tab as well. And then from this point, all the objects are just like you would use them previously in KBase. So anything you could do previously, you can do now. And we're also working on adding some bulk functionality as well. Ellen Dow, who's on the call with us, has done a lot of the front-end design for that. And I think that covers everything I can think of. Anything else, Ben, you want to mention?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think that covers most of the new functionality. You know, you could maybe show the jobs tab view if you wanted to show just one, or sorry, the jobs browser view, I should say. But yeah, I don't know. I think that this is pretty comprehensive. I'm going to check the Q&A to see if there's any questions, but it doesn't look like there are any. Since there's only a few people on the call, if folks want to come off the mic and ask any questions, we could do that. Or if there's no questions, we could move into doing some one-on-one help with anybody that would like some support doing that.
Thanks for watching this webinar. For more webinars and tutorials, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see announcements for upcoming webinars and recordings for previous webinars on our website at kbase.us/learn. Let us know in the comments what content you'd like to see in future webinars. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at DOE_KBase. And if you have questions or encounter an error when using KBase, please contact the help desk.